Y'all, today's show is so good.
But number one, I've never seen an intro like that.
It is my hope and desire that not only will episode 30 still be fun, but episode 300 will be even more fun. You are made for something great, so go and be awesome.
Ten seconds remaining.
Hello, and welcome to the show. My name is Renee Hastings, and I'm your host of Renee Speaks. Y'all, today's show is going to be so fantastic, and that's partly because of our amazing sponsor, Wilbron. Wilbron is Alabama's premier public relations firm. If y'all have any PR needs, be sure to hit them up at www.wilbron.com. Y'all, I'm so excited to introduce today's guest. Her name is Jennifer Dawn, and she helps business owners escape constant doing unpredictable cash flow and misaligned teams. She helps them create a profitable and sustainable and fulfilling company culture. She's a creator of a signature two-step coaching method, and she's helped over 50,000 business owners achieve results quickly. Jennifer is the founder of Jennifer Dawn Coaching, and she's a creator of the Best Planner Ever. She's also the author of The Joy Guide and The Apple Stand. She is a Profit First certified coach and host of the Happy Productive podcast. Y'all, put your hands together for Jennifer Dawn. Hey, Jennifer.
Hello, Renee. Oh my goodness, that is such an introduction. I was like wanting to applaud for myself because you made me sound fantastic. I love it.
Oh, you are fantastic. I am so impressed with you, Jennifer, and all of the accomplishments that you have had in your career and the lives that you've changed. And you have truly made an impact in so many lives. And I'm just so excited that you've taken a few minutes to be with us on our shows. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I am so happy to be here. And I cannot wait to add as much value as I possibly can to the show and to everybody who is listening in with us today.
Awesome. So why don't we go ahead and just dive right in? Tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you get to this place of being able to impact so many lives?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So I actually started my entrepreneurial career when I was 8 years old, and I would spend the summers at my grandparents' house, and they had a chiropractic office, and then out front was an apple tree in the front yard. And that's where my second book was really came from, was The Apple Stand. And I was just one day literally sitting up in the apple tree, and I'm like watching all these patients go in and out of the office, and I'm seeing the apples that are just falling off this tree because there was so much excess. And I was like, let me do an apple stand. And I went to the adults and I was like, hey, I have this idea. And they're all like, no, you need to do a lemonade stand. That's what kids do. And I was like, forget that. I want to do my apple stand. And so that's what I did. And I started my little stand, and I've never forgotten that feeling of having an idea and then taking some action. And it literally created money in my hands. And I remember the feeling of those shiny quarters in my hands of just like, I had this idea and it literally turned into money in my hands. And so I really fell in love with this whole idea of, being an entrepreneur. And of course, my grandparents were great examples of that as well. And so I went on to have little businesses through high school. When I was 23, I started my very, very first software company, my first quote, real company. I grew that to 7 figures. I went on I bought a company that failed. And which was one of my actually greatest accomplishments, was to have a huge business failure, because I learned so much from that. That kind of launched me into corporate, where I grew another 7-figure business in corporate, and then became very disillusioned with just all of it in corporate, and went back out on my own to rediscover myself. And so I was asked to lead a national network of women entrepreneurs, and I tripled their revenues, and just had a great time. Honestly, love the work I was doing, but that's really what gave me the confidence and the courage to start coaching. And then from there, I launched my coaching practice, and I've been going strong now for well over a decade, and absolutely love using my experience, my hard-won wisdom, all the things I've learned. I'm not a coach who went to school to learn how to be a business coach. I went to the school of hard knocks, and I'm an active business owner today, and growing my existing practice. And I love the work, and I'm just so happy to be doing it.
Wow. That is so incredible. I mean, to start at 8 with your apples, and I love the way you shared that story about how you had an idea and it turned into coins. I mean, how basic and true is that even still today?
Yeah.
You have an idea, it can turn into coins all day. And so you took that and you just ran with it and continued. And then to start a business at 23, a 7-figure business, that is truly an accomplishment. Not many people can say that, like, at all. So many people are still struggling to have 6-figure businesses, or, live off of 5-figure salaries, whatever that looks like. That is quite an accomplishment. I'm so proud of you for being able to do that. And I would love to dive in a little bit deeper into that, maybe a little bit later in the conversation, about what that was like. I know you had modeled for you entrepreneurship, like your grandfather was an entrepreneur, and maybe, I'm not sure about your parents, but you saw what it looked like, and the hard work and determination that it takes, and all of the ups and the downs and the highs and the lows. And maybe you could share a little bit about those experiences and how they helped prepare you for this 7-level figure of company. Because I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. People cross our paths, and it's not an accident. And that along our journeys, no matter whose journey it is, your journey, my journey, everyone in the audience's journey, whatever it looks like, that there's a plan and a purpose behind it all, and that everything we've been through is preparation to help us in this current moment and to wherever it is that we're supposed to ultimately end up. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that 100%. And even if we can't see, I always love the analogy of, you're driving at night and the headlights only shine so far, and you can't always see what's up ahead of you, but we have to trust that the road is there and that we're headed in that right direction. There's definitely a lot of faith and hope and trust that's wrapped up in it. But as I mentioned, when I was explaining part of my journey, that when I had bought my company, after I sold my software company and before I went into corporate, and I bought another company because I wanted to do something different, and it was a massive failure. I opened and closed my doors. It was an existing company. I'd done my due diligence, but I didn't realize that the past owners had really and truly driven that business into the ground. And so within a year, I went into it cash rich and had to close it, was in a ton of debt, and was just like, what the heck? And I really became very disillusioned with being an entrepreneur, because it was my first really massive business failure. But looking back right now, the stuff that I learned from that failed business has helped me to help so many other business owners now not to fail in business. And it's really one of my most valuable lessons. But when I was going through it, it was miserable. It was hell. And I never want to go through anything like that again. But This is where when we talk about like the things that prepare you. And as a business owner, you never know what is going to be thrown at you from day to day. But what I have learned without question is that now anything that gets thrown at me, I know there's a higher purpose, there's a higher reason. And even if right now I can't see that down the road of where this is going, I just really and truly have to trust and embrace it and learn what I can from it, get the experience, the wisdom, the knowledge, because pretty much all the time it's come back. And I'm like, wow, I'm so happy that whatever fell apart or whatever that challenge was, I'm actually really grateful for it because that's exactly what I needed to get to the next step in this, in this business journey, in this process of where I'm going.
Right, exactly. And I see that we have a number of listeners on the line with us or people watching us. And so if anyone has a question for Jennifer Dawn, this is your opportunity to ask that multi-million-dollar question because she's your girl to be able to help you navigate whatever the situations are. So I invite our audience into the chat and make this very interactive. But in the meantime, Jennifer, you had mentioned that there was these big mistakes that were made. And we had a panelist on back in June, a panel of men who were talking about moving your business to the $1 million mark. And one of them said something like, it's better to make $100,000 mistake than $1 million mistake.
Yes.
So can you think of any of those mistakes that were made that you wish had happened either sooner, or lessons that you learned that things that you could have done to avoid or prevent some things?
Yeah, absolutely. So after I'd left corporate and I was kind of like, I got to figure out what the heck I'm going to do, I took a position with a national network of entrepreneurs, and they brought me in to do their masterminding and accountability circles. And so while I was there, I grew the company, I tripled revenues, they made me the president of the company, very, very successful. The mistake, however, was that our agreement was a verbal agreement. I didn't get the agreement in writing. And part of our agreement was equity in the company and a small salary. And I was very willing at this time, because I was just really trying to figure out what the heck I was going to do, was very willing to put in the work to grow another company and use all of my experience to help all these entrepreneurs in this group. But I took the owner at her word and I trusted, and it was a verbal agreement. And after the company was very, very successful, and it was like, hey, wait a second, I really do think here now it's time for me to actually get that equity that we discussed and that we agreed to, and it needs to be a written agreement. She just had a lot of excuses, and it's at my accountant's, my dog ate it, all that kind of stuff. And so it was actually my husband who pointed it out to me. He's like, sweetheart, you are being used. I'm like, no, I did not want to hear that. I did not want to hear that after everything I'd poured into this. But when it was out there, he was right. 100%. And so I ended up having to leave. And so the biggest mistake I made was absolutely like not getting that agreement in writing. And I think it's a very common one. And even with my clients, when they're going into any kind of a partnership agreement, now that was, again, a great mistake, but it helps me now to make sure that nobody else makes that same mistake. But I had to walk away from everything that I had built up for those couple of years that I'd been there, and all of that equity, all of that value. Yes, I could have, pursued a lawsuit, but at the time I was just so emotionally devastated by what had happened. I just didn't have it in me to, to pursue something like that legally.
Right.
But the bright lining was I resigned and was going to start my own thing. I'm like, what am I going to do now? But a bunch of women were like, Jennifer, we love working with you. We love coaching with you. We still want to coach with you. And so literally my coaching practice was born overnight. I had clients right from the get-go. Even this devastating thing had happened. It started my coaching practice, which is now obviously going strong, and it's a 7-figure company now. And so it was a beautiful, beautiful thing, but it started from a mistake. So the learning lesson, get it in writing. Okay. I heard somebody say, get divorced before you get married, and work it out. Like, what is divorce going to look like if this doesn't work out between us, and get it in writing before you get married.
Right. Absolutely. Because when you go into business with someone else, it is just like a relationship.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is because you grow together this thing, you're both supposedly putting in your blood, sweat, and tears and your tireless, endless nights, of working. And if you don't have something in writing, even if you went to try to sue for it, the burden of proof is on you that
Yep.
says we had this agreement. If there was no text, there was no email, there was no nothing that said this is what it was, then you basically, in my past industry, they said if it's not written down, it didn't happen.
That's right. That's right.
But I
Exactly.
and so everything had to be documented and dated and, one line error corrected because it's so important to be able to document and see any changes along the way, you know, all of the different things that need to be done to make this a real deal, to make it real.
Yeah.
So I am grateful for that experience. Because like I said, no pain is wasted. No tears are wasted
Agree. Yeah.
from your mistake. And I put mistake in air quotes for those that are just listening to the podcast later. That your truly successful company, your coaching business started out of this so-called mistake.
Yeah.
So I definitely is how you look at it and at the perspective that you have, because I'm not sure it really was a mistake, even though you would wish things had been done differently. Yes, and that they would have kept their word. So much more came out of it for the good, for the better. And it looks like, and Lucy says, wow, that is some experience. I made the mistake of trusting a verbal agreement years ago. Never again. I had to learn the hard way. So you're not alone, Jennifer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. But it was really a blessing in disguise. I would never again do any kind of partnership agreement that wasn't written down. However, I might still be growing somebody else's company who was not a good person to be doing that for, if that had actually worked out. And so now I'm able to be under my own umbrella in my own company, doing my own thing. And that ultimately is really where I should have been anyway.
That's right. That's right. And so I guess it doesn't really matter how you get there, but as long as you get where you're supposed to be. And
Right.
welcome to the show, TJ. I'm glad you're able to make it. Feel free to pop any questions in the chat that you may have for Jennifer today about reigniting your business spark. That's the theme of today's show. And we were just talking about a mistake that, and I say mistake in air quotes again, that Jennifer had made that actually led to her super successful coaching business. So super excited to learn more about that, and more from you, Jennifer, too, about. You just said something about going into who you go into business with, and they weren't a good person to begin with, because if they were a good person, then they would have kept their end of the bargain. They would have upheld their deal. So I think that actually lends itself to another conversation about knowing who you're going into business with and doing due diligence. Because sometimes we go into business with friends or we go into business with family members. And, do we really know them? Do we really know what drives them, who they are at the core? And because like Lucy said, and like you said, you trust people. You just trust that people are telling the truth. When they say something, the words out of their mouth are facts and not lies. Right?
Yeah.
So it's so important to do due diligence, get things documented in writing, have paperwork for this agreement. You should have some paperwork. There's got to be a paper trail so that there's no misunderstanding. So that everyone is on the same page, everyone is of the same understanding, and they know what is and what is not.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Absolutely. So then, Jennifer, as you've been working with your coaching clients, and you've worked with thousands of business owners, What would you say is the most common challenge that they face when it comes to keeping the spark in their business?
Hands down across the board, and this goes for myself too. The most common challenge with business owners that I see is getting past themselves every time. Every time. It's getting past ourselves. It's getting past our egos. Our egos get in the way. It's getting past our limiting beliefs, getting past our fears. It could also even be getting past the habits that we've developed. And when it comes to things like time management or how we manage our money, all of those kinds of things, it usually, not usually, it always starts with us. 100% of the time, it always starts with us. And so, but the good side of that is, it's like, uh-oh, if the problem is me, but that's actually a good thing, because when the problem is you, it means that you actually have the power to do something about it. That you can always, if you always start with yourself, now you put yourself back in your power, you step out of that kind of victim-y thinking or victim-y mindset, and now you actually can do something to affect or alter or change a result for any part of your business or your life. So even if you're, feeling burned out, even if you just got screwed over by your partner, been there, done that, I can check that box. It's not a good or a fun place to be, but it is a place that offers the opportunity for you to sit with yourself, to expand your own insight, to learn, to grow. There's so many opportunities that really and truly sit in those times that are not, those happy and shiny moments. It's really the downtimes that I think that it's so funny, Renee. I once had a life coach, not a business coach, a life coach tell me, we were on a call and I'm like sobbing because I was so upset. I was in corporate trying to figure my way out of that. And I'm sobbing and I apologized. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I think I'm like PMSing right now. And she said, Jennifer, don't underestimate the power of PMS and the wisdom that comes from PMS. And I've never forgotten that, because she was so right. During the rest of the month, I could manage those emotions mostly by repressing them, distracting myself, pretending, ignoring them. But in those moments of PMS, when all of that stuff just boiled up and boiled over, I could no longer ignore it. And she was so right. It was those moments. Those were the moments that I really needed to have that insight, that emotion, that boiling over, that clarity that things aren't okay. I can't just, shove this down and keep pressing on. So like, no matter what you might be going through right now, I assure you that if you can sit with it, you can understand there's really good stuff that can come from this, and start looking at it from a different perspective. You'll start to, pull this stuff out as you, take a step forward, and more will come, and you take another step forward.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. I love that there's power in PMS.
There really is.
And I love that when you say that the challenge is us and the solution is with us.
Yeah.
So because the solution is with us, because the challenge is us, that gives us power. And so when we're sitting in these moments of feeling inadequate or feeling less than, or feeling like we're not doing our absolute best or being our absolute best, or, life is just lifing, we really can change our perspective in that moment. That can be a defining moment for our future. When we can say, enough is enough. I've had it. Things are going to change from here on out. I'm no longer going to be, a smart aleck. I'm no longer going to do this other thing that's keeping me from achieving my next level, or achieving my goals, or living out my purpose, that I'm here on this earth floor. I have stuff to do. So I got to fix myself so that I can do things differently and do things better, and life isn't so hard. I took a class called, one of the curriculums that we used was called 5 Thinking Hats, I think is what it was called. And within that class, we talked about the importance of learning to see things from different perspectives. And one of the exercises that we went through was we were each given a picture of a house. One group was given a picture of the front of the house. One group was given a picture of the back of the house, and two different groups were given the sides of the house. And we were all assigned to explain what was on our picture. So I think my group had the front of the house. And I said, in my picture, there's 2 windows, there's a door, there's a porch, there's some steps, there's some grass, there's a tree on the left, and blah, 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 blah. And that was what I saw. And then another group said, well, no, it isn't. That's not what's on our pictures. I have a picture of, a back door and a deck and, some grass and blah, blah, blah. So anyways, we all shared what was on our pictures, but it was the same house. So we were all right. Yeah. But we all had different perspectives. And when we're able to do that quicker about different situations, the better we are at moving out of a problem area into a more solution-based area. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I just think it's so important that, and the other great thing about that was that different people in your group all brought different perspectives of the same house. And so if we can get out of our little tiny pity party that we're having when we're not feeling good about whatever direction or whatever is happening, get out of that and start to then open ourselves up to different perspectives and 100% different people. We're humans. We need social connections. We need each other. And sometimes all it really and truly takes is somebody just saying, I get it. I was there too. It was terrible, but here's how I moved through it. And that's all you need. Bing, that idea, that inspiration, that ingenuity. And it just reignites that spark of oh my goodness, they were here and they survived it and they actually thrived as a result of it. Who knows what, I could be doing as a result of this too. But we really and truly do have to get out of our own way, open ourselves up, ask for help, right? We talked about ego. Check the ego, ask for help. If it's in your heart and it's on your mind of man, I just really, really could use some help from this person that's in my head, just do it. Have the courage, reach out, ask for help. You'd be shocked. So many people actually want to help, but if we're not asking, we're not going to be able to receive the benefit of their insight, wisdom, knowledge, because we're just, kind of staying stuck in our own little worlds.
Right. Or their mistakes.
Or their own mistakes. Exactly.
Right. We don't have to keep repeating other people's mistakes.
No.
And Simone Blake says that she 100% agrees. Perspective is everything. And Mo Brown Sugar says, wonderful share. Thank you so much for each of the points that you brought out about perspective. Use other people's experiences to get out of that pity party where you are. Learn from them. Gain from them, because like I said, everything that happens for a reason. No tears are wasted, whether it's for you in this moment or somebody else later as a testimony of how you made it through. They are all serving a purpose. So thank you so much for sharing that, Jennifer. So you, in your coaching, you have a specific 2-step method to help overcome the challenges that people face. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we call it inside out results, and we have an inside out results roadmap that we follow. The roadmap is basically a culmination of the last dozen years of coaching. Anytime I was working with a client and I needed to help them solve a problem, and I would just create a tool around it. I'm like, okay, let's create a tool, let's solve this problem. And so I just pulled everything together, and that's what created our inside out results roadmap. So when we work with a client, the first thing that we do is an assessment top to bottom of their business, not just the business, but their life as well, of, where everything is at. Kind of think about taking your car to the mechanic and they do a 40-point checklist. Similar concept here, but for you and your business. And then once we identify, the gaps or the things that are not working, we get very, very quickly, we get to work on executing a strategy. So it doesn't even matter, is it marketing? Is it sales? Is it, your people? Is it time management? Whatever that happens to be. Usually it's time, money, and people. Usually those are the 3 biggest things that we as entrepreneurs are often faced with, especially as we're growing and scaling our companies. So once we have a strategy in place, we obviously start executing. But one of the things that we do, we use several different tools in the coaching practice, and I call it inside out results because ties right into what we've been talking about. It's like, it starts with us. It always starts with us. Every single problem that we're having in our business and in our lives, it starts with us. And so that's where we have a lot of different tools to get in there and figure out what's the problem at the core. Because if I solve the problem as a coach, if I solve that problem at the core, now the problem is actually solved, and we're not trying to put band-aids on things. We're not trying to, fix the symptoms. We're actually fixing the problem. And so even when sometimes business owners come to us and they're like, I'm terrible with money, or my cash flow is terrible. Okay, fine. Well, let's just figure out why your cash flow is terrible. I can teach you the tactical, practical things to have really strong, healthy cash flow. I can share my roadmap and all these tools. I can show you how to do an operating budget and a cash flow projection, and I can make it all really simple and easy to understand. But if you have an underlying fear around money, or that you are not good enough, or that you don't deserve the money, that's a problem that no tool, tactical action is going to solve. So this is where we've really got to go to the heart of where that issue is and where that problem is, and then work to correct that. When we do that, now you're going to get the result. I can take two clients, one who's done that in their inner emotional work and one who hasn't. I can teach them both how to do an operating budget, and time again, the one that's done that emotional work is going to get a better result. And the one who hasn't is going to be like, oh, blah, 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 excuse of why this doesn't work for me. But it all starts on the inside, and it all starts by going to the core of the actual, what is the actual root of this problem? Let's solve that. And then when we start to pair the emotional with the tactical action, there's your two steps. Now you're going to get the result that you're after. Even things that you tried in the past, you're just like, this never worked for me before. Ding, it now works for you because we got that emotional work done. We got it solved at the core. Now the tactical is going to line up and work so much better.
Right. Absolutely. I can relate to this on so many levels, especially the money and finance part. Because if you grow up in a house or in a family where there was a scarcity mentality, or there was always this fear of lack, not having enough, or someone telling you, being rich is evil. Money is the root of all evil, or all these other things that get spoken into you or over you. You start to believe that if you start to get money, then you are evil, or something like that. And I'm not even going to say give that an adjective, because it is what it is. You know what I mean? We had no control over what was spoken over us. But we do have control about how we decide to live out the rest of our life. Are we going to be held captive to that limiting thinking or to that limiting belief that was spoken over us? Or are we going to break that chain, that generational curse, and say, my future and my family and my legacy are going to be different? I'm not speaking these negative curse words over my family. They will have better lives because I'm breaking this chain. And that's that emotional work you were talking about. You have to look within yourself. And then they say, as TJ says, they say money changes people. And
it can.
It absolutely can. What else? What do you have to say about how money can change people?
I believe that money magnifies who you already are. So if you're a jerk, and I don't want to use bad language, but let's just say you're a jerk and you have a lot of money. Now you're a jerk with a lot of money. If you are a really good person and you have a lot of money, you're just a good person with a lot of money. So I really do believe that money is a magnifier. And that in my journey really helped me as well, because I did come across people who had money, did not treat other people well. And of course, I did not want to be like that. And so even in my own emotional inner work, I had to come to terms with the fact of like, wait a second, just because this person had a lot of money and was a total jerk doesn't mean that I have to be a total jerk if I have a lot of money, and to kind of push through that. You mentioned the scarcity mindset, 100%. I had to do some work on it's okay for me to keep my money. Like I would make the money and then it's like, wait, where did it all go? Because as soon as I had money in the bank, I would just be like, buy this, buy this, buy this. It's like, wait, where'd my money go? So I had to do some work there on myself too, of like, hey, give myself permission to keep my money. So it's, the trick is, and this is where coaching can be so valuable, when you have the right coach. And I've had terrible coaches and I've had fantastic coaches. But even those terrible coaches, I learned my best lessons from those worst coaches, the ones that made me cry and the ones that shamed me. And I feel like they really helped me to become the coach that I am today, of knowing what not to do with people. But this is where, when you have a coach and they can really help you identify, is this just a skill that I need to develop of learning? How do I actually manage the money that comes into my business? Or is this more of an underlying emotional fear, limiting belief that's actually blocking me from being able to manage my money? I know we've used the money analogy, which is a good one. I think we can all really relate to. So this is where a good coach can really help you to navigate that. And now it's going to shorten your curve so much. So things that you've been struggling with for years, working with a good coach, identifying what's the real underlying cause, within a short amount of time, 30 days, 90 days, whatever that looks like, depending on the situation, you can start to really get traction in some of these areas. And, working with somebody who's been there, done that, can just be such a game changer, so that you stop struggling day to day to day with, trying to solve these things that are just not getting solved on your own.
For sure, 100%. And Lucille says, money magnifies who you really are. This is so true. And I love how you put it, that if you're a jerk with money, if you're a jerk, you're just going to be a jerk with money. And if you are a kind person, you're going to be a kind person with money. And I love how you emphasize the fact that we need to assess who we are and our relationship with money, especially as entrepreneurs. And if you come from a place where you have little and you're progressively advancing and growing, and the business is growing and more money is being deposited into your bank account, how does that feel? What is that? I mean, what changes or impact is that having on your body physically and mentally? Because something happens. There's something that happens when you are in a brand new space that you've never been before, where you can go shopping and buy stuff. You know what I mean? That's not just a necessity. Maybe it's just a want that you can now afford.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But do you just keep on buying all the wants, or do you develop a relationship with a savings account?
Yeah. And Renee, I see this all the time, where they come in for coaching. And so we coach them, and then they start getting the success that they were like, the success has been eluding me. And now they have the success.
Yeah.
And so now the money is there. People will reset back to that old comfort. I call it a comfort zone, even though it's not necessarily comfortable. But like, if you're used to living check to check, right? That becomes your comfort zone. I'm just used to not having money, and I'm used to the stress around not having money. So now you fix the business, you've got money, and that money comes in. And if you don't solve that underlying, stress of like, my comfort zone is not having money, you will make choices, and all that money will go away, and you will come right back to where you were before. And you'll almost like a thermostat, you just sort of reset that thermostat. So this is why it's so important to pair the emotional and the tactical, because even then, once you solve that problem, you'll go back. It may not happen right away, but I've had many clients, and I always coach them as we go through this. I'm like, all right, we're here. Now we have to make sure we don't go back. So I know enough now to keep them on track, but I've had many clients in the years past that they would be like, hey, we solved this problem. And 2 years later, they come back and they're like, man, I'm in the same boat again, Jen. And it's like, all right, we're going to get you out of the boat again, but here's the piece that you need to do. And then at the end of the day, it's always up to us if we're going to do the work on ourselves or not. We always get to choose. The coach can't control that, but it is important to, even once you got the success, it's not necessarily the happy ending. Sometimes that's where the work is actually really beginning, because you don't want to go backwards.
That's right. That is so, I'm so glad you put it the way that you did, because success can be scary because it's an unknown. And because we're more comfortable with where we have been, we find ways to sometimes even sabotage our own success so we can get back to that comfort place of paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
Even though we didn't like it there. You know what I mean? So I love that you worded that so well, and it's so relatable and so understandable. And I really just truly appreciate that inner work truly has to happen and continue to happen. It's not a one and done kind of thing, but it's a complete overhaul of how we think so that we can make permanent change and rethink all those things. So,
and I want to throw one thing in. So those listening, if you're like, uh-oh, Jennifer's going to make me do that inner work. She's going to make me go back to my childhood and blah, blah, blah. Look, you guys, maybe how far we need to go back, but it doesn't mean that you have to sit in therapy for 10 years talking about it. Like, this is the beautiful thing about coaching. And I'm a fan of therapy. I have several clients who are therapists, so I'm a big fan. But sometimes in therapy, you're talking about all this stuff. It's just exacerbating it, stirring it all up. And then if the therapist doesn't have tools for actually healing, you can just stay stuck in it for years. This is the beautiful thing about coaching, because we have a lot of different tools that we can use that will actually heal it at the source so that we can go on, we can move on. So I just want anybody who's thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go to 20 years of therapy. No, not the case at all. Like, there's so many coaches, so many sophisticated things that we can do to get results very, very quickly. So all you really need is courage. Just have the courage to go there. I promise this stuff isn't that scary. Once you start breaking it down, and the freedom, the light that you bring back into your life, the truth, like all of these really, really good things are so empowering, and it's just so worth it. If you can just have the courage to go there, don't be afraid of it, and don't let yourself just talk yourself out of doing that inner work, because it's so, so critical.
Absolutely. 100%. Could not agree more. And then once you start making that change, and you have the courage, you're starting to make the change, you'll start to see all the progress. And Joyce Meyer says to feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
So just do it anyway. And your life is going to be so much better. And it's not just about you making a change for yourself. It's about the future legacy that you're going to leave. You are the determining factor in the legacy that you leave. What kind of legacy are you going to leave? The one that you inherited, or the one that you created for your kids and your children's children and their children? So the choice is ours. It's completely 100% ours. So, Jennifer, as we're talking about reigniting your business spark, tell us what this means to you. I mean, because we've talked a lot about money and we probably beat that horse to death, but I think it's so good. It is so good because it's like the crux of whether or not change happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or change lasts. I'll put it that way. So when it comes to reigniting our business spark, why is that so important to you, and what does it mean to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Such a great question. Thank you so much for asking it. And that was so beautifully said about our legacy, the one that we're kind of handed or the one we want to create. I love that. So good. Reigniting the spark, business owners, I think this is something that we don't talk about enough, that the journey of being a business owner is tough. It is tough. Anybody who says otherwise is full of it. And the truth is that, owning a business is one of the things that the longer you're in it, the more likely you are to fail. If you look at all of the stats, how many businesses fail within the first year, the first 5 years, the first 10 years, like those stats are totally against us. I mean, Really and truly, it's one of the few things that the longer we're in it, the greater our chances of success. If you're in that drive, to push towards your first million in revenues, only 4% of businesses ever cross the $1 million mark. Only 4%. That means the majority of all businesses that are out there never actually cross that mark. So, and it's 2% for women, so it's even harder for women to cross that, 7-figure mark. So just know that this is something that is very difficult, completely doable, 100%. It's doable, but it's not an easy thing. And so on that journey, there are going to be times where you have lost the spark. You are overwhelmed. You are burned out. You are like, I want to sell this thing. Many times, I can raise my hand here. Many times I'm on LinkedIn looking for jobs going, okay, I've had enough of this. I'm ready to make some money. What jobs are out there? Forget it. I'm just going to shut it down. I'm going to go get a job. I know that people listening, I know you guys have all been there. I have too. We've all had those moments, but as entrepreneurs, right? Renee, you raised your hand, right? We've had this. It's a very real thing. And I think that sometimes we think that we're a failure, we're not good enough, something's wrong with us because we're going through it, because we see, Joe Blow down the corner and their business is going fantastic. And what's wrong with me in my business? And it's not true. I assure you it's not true. I'm coaching Joe Blow, and let me tell you, he's got plenty of things that are wrong with his business that he's not telling everybody. So we tend to put on this face, especially in front of other business owners. If you've ever been to a networking event, it can often be a lot of egos on show of everybody parading around going, well, my revenues are this and my revenues are that. It's like, well, that's nice, but what are your profits? Like, bottom line I have a client, he's so wonderful. And he says, top line is vanity, bottom line is sanity. And it's true. That's what you want to focus on. Bottom line, right? That is where the sanity is. But you are with other business owners, and often we're not having these conversations about how hard it is, how I'm really burned out right now. And so that is really why I wrote my book. Obviously, as a coach, I get so many business owners are just like, please help me. I don't love my business anymore, and I don't know what to do about it. So that's really where the book, The Apple Stand, came from, is just my work with business owners of helping them to reignite that spark, start loving the business again. And you can absolutely do this. But I think it starts by having a conversation about, you know what? I'm not loving my business right now. It's okay. It all starts with me. So let me start there. And now let me get out of this little world. Let me, read a book. Let me talk with some other business owners. Let me take a step in a direction. This is another reason why I love hosting our in-person events. So we do 2 retreats and 2 masterminds every year. And I just love getting out of that day to day. Go to someplace beautiful, be around other business owners, hear their stories, know that you're not alone. And everybody leaves our events with just like so many ideas and feeling alive again. And they're just like, oh my God, like I just have refallen back in love with my business. So there's so many things you can do when you're going through this, but just know it's a very normal, natural part of being a business owner.
Right. I love that. I love how you just made it like you're normal.
You're normal.
What you're feeling, completely normal. It's okay.
That's right.
Surround yourself with people who are like-minded, who want to support and encourage and help you remember the first love that you had and the reason why you started the business and the impact that you're having. So I really appreciate that you provide this space for entrepreneurs to be able to do this, because that was part of a follow-up question I was going to ask you, is how you help people reconnect with their original passion. And it sounds like these some workshops definitely do that.
Yeah, the retreats, I think, are just so transformational. And we go to these beautiful places. And I'm like, what better place to just be like pampered and spoiled and loved, to get out of that day-to-day routine and then be with other business owners and then learn a whole bunch of stuff that's going to shorten your curve. Like that will reignite the spark faster than anything.
Right. Absolutely. And then meet other people that, you're networking with. They're getting to know you.
Yeah.
And you're getting to know them. And the more, and I love that we have pulled it up here on the screen, retreats for entrepreneurs at and this whole group of amazing people who know people who might need your services or who might need whatever it is that you have to offer.
Yeah.
You don't know who they know. And so it's important to widen your network and broaden your horizons and to let people in to what it is that you're trying to do so that they can help you. So, and not have those egos. It's like, oh, I got this. No, I'm good.
Yeah.
No.
Check the ego. That's the number one thing. Just check the ego at the door. It does not serve you. And when you start to, ask for help, and it's so funny, the video that's playing right now, if you're not seeing the video, but that was from one of our retreats that we did in Vermont, where we all went out together and we did a Spartan race. And then the picture that's above it, that was from our retreat in Costa Rica. And it's amazing to me that some of these retreats happened years ago, and people are still like, hey, they're still having the transformation from the event because they're just so very, very powerful.
Wow, how amazing. What great videos too. This was like so much fun. What are they walking through fire?
We were, I said we did a 5-day retreat in Vermont, and we brought a film crew in to film the process of transformation as people went through 3 days of coaching. And then on the 4th day, we all went out and we did a Spartan race together. And so we're coaching them up, and then you go to a Spartan and you're feeling the fear of doing that. And then you go out and you do it. And so that just builds the confidence. And now you're just like, I can go back home and work on my business, no problem, because I just did this big, scary thing. So those are our unbreakable retreats that we love.
I love that. I love that. And how many times does it feel like, as a business owner, you are walking through fire, like literal fire, like
daily, every day.
It's like your feet are being held to the fire. You're accountable to somebody. You've got to perform, whether you're the boss or whatever. Even the boss has to perform because they've got lives that they're responsible for. Right?
That's right. Every day we're walking through the fire. No question.
I love that. Love it. And then I love how after the retreat, how you feel so empowered. Like there's nothing you can't do. And you definitely get that spark back. And you're like, look, I started this thing for a reason. I'm living out my purpose. I'm not going to fail. And you've got now new people in your circle cheering you on, saying, yes, you've got this. You can do this. Stay strong.
Yeah. Yeah. So powerful. And the power of that community, a really good community. I found that when I first started my businesses and I would go to some of these networking events, these communities just did not feel, there was a lot of mean girl going on. And those of us who know what mean girl is, what I'm talking about here. There was a lot of ego, and I just never really felt very connected. But as I've grown and created my own community of amazing entrepreneurs, and there's no ego there, and they're just these wonderful people, when you really start connecting with the right group, that can 100% be a game changer, because now everybody can be vulnerable. We all learn together. We all succeed together. We all celebrate each other's victories. And now you really and truly have a way to beat that entrepreneurial isolation, which I know we've all felt at one time or another. And it's a very, very real thing too. So getting in the right community. So if you're in a community right now and you're like, not really loving it, keep looking. Like there are definitely communities out there that can be everything that you want them to be.
Absolutely, 100%. And I love that you emphasize the importance of community. Get in the right community. As an entrepreneur, business owner, or if you're in corporate America, it doesn't matter. You need the right people in your life to keep going, keep waking up, putting it in, 100% another day after day after day. And the right people in your circle and in your community definitely have an impact on that. So if you don't have someone, call Jennifer. call me. We are here for you. We would love to support you in whatever it is that you're trying to do so that you don't feel alone, because we have been there, done that, and know that the importance of a word at the right time.
Right.
Just so powerful.
It's so powerful. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Jen, I know that Jennifer, you're also a profit first profitability coach.
I am.
Tell us about that. And what is profit first? So for those that don't know, I do know. I love it. But we can spill the beans here today, right now. What is profit first, and why should everyone be a part of it?
Yeah, I love Profit First so much. So Profit First is a book. It was written by a gentleman named Mike Michalowicz. And so then he wrote the book, and then he also created an organization that certifies what they call Profit First professionals, which are bookkeepers, coaches, and accountants, okay, that are all certified on this method. The way that I met Mike is when I was at the entrepreneurial group. I actually brought him in as a speaker to speak to the members of our organization. And I remember sitting in the audience and I was listening and I was like, man, this is just brilliant. If I'd had this in my other businesses, I literally would have spent millions of dollars better with this. And so when I left that organization and started my own practice, Mike reached out to me and he's like, Jennifer, I need you to start my mastery group. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to do this. And so I was the only coach to ever launch Mike's mastery group and work with bookkeepers, coaches, and accountants, all on implementing Profit First into their business. And then my business obviously started really taking off, and I couldn't continue to lead his mastery groups, but I have continued to use Profit First in my own business for myself and also with all my clients. In a nutshell, Profit First, if you've ever heard of the envelope system, maybe your grandparents did this when they would get paid and they would have money and they would divvy it up into envelopes. And this is rent, and this is utilities, and this is our food money. And they lived on it. And that's how they manage their finances. Profit First is similar to that in that it's kind of like an electronic version of the envelope system where we are setting up accounts. As money flows into the business, we are, based on a system of percentages, allocating money into the different accounts. So as a business owner, when we put everything in one account, we look at the account and we make our financial decisions based on it. And this has happened to me many times in past businesses where it's like, oh, I got money, let me go hire somebody. Oh, I got money, let me go buy this. And then you don't realize a lot of that money is earmarked for other things. And then it's like, uh-oh, now I can't make payroll. So the beautiful thing is that you start to allocate the money into the account. So even if you're looking at your bank balance, you have a way more accurate picture of the money that's in there, what it's actually earmarked for. So it really helps us to understand our own business, the percentages that we can run our business on. So that is Profit First. And I absolutely love it and recommend it for all business owners should be on this system.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. Could not agree more. I first became aware of Mike Michalowicz through his book called The Pumpkin Plan.
Yep.
And because, and I have to stop saying these words, but I say I'm not a numbers person, but I'm going to stop saying that.
Good.
But the Pumpkin Plan helped break down business as a whole, but then kind of set you up to understand better what Profit First is all about.
Right.
So I really love that so much. I love the Pumpkin Plan and Profit First, the book. I have them both. Actually went to set up my accounts and all the whole thing. So anyways, I love that you are a part of Profit First and would love to talk to you more about that maybe offline, because I know we've only got 2 minutes left. I cannot believe we only have 2 minutes left in this conversation. It has been so great, Jennifer, chatting with you and hanging out with you. For closing thoughts, because I know the clock is just ticking away. For those that are listening and who feel stuck in their business, what are some closing thoughts or things that you want them to remember? If they don't remember anything at all from today's conversation, what do you want them to take away?
Number one, just know that it's normal and natural. Okay. It's not just you. It happens to all of the business owners. It's a very normal part of the process. Remember that the most growth comes from the most pain. It does. The most growth always comes from the most pain. So however much pain you might be in right now, I'm not kidding when I say there's a huge growth opportunity there, even though it might be really, really uncomfortable. But if you can check your ego at the door, get out of your day-to-day, take an action to surround yourself with another business owner, go get a coach, like get in the right community, just take some of those steps. I assure you that your perspective can change and you can use whatever is happening, you can use it to propel you forward.
Absolutely. 100%. What great golden nuggets for us to take away. That what is happening, it is normal, and that you have the power to control and change whatever you don't like about what's happening right now. So thank you so much, Jennifer. You were made for something great. So go and be awesome.
Thank you.